You are muted, so we can't hear you.
Okay, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone. It's nice to have you here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you so much, Surveyor David, for putting this together for Young Surveyors Network in Lagos State. Thank you to our facilitators for this morning. Roshni, Sharma, thank you so much, Ma, for joining us. Professor J. Whittal, we say thank you for joining in. We have Shirley, Chapunza, thank you also, Ma, for joining. And Surveyor Adewebi, thank you so much, sir. We are most grateful for coming on board to be of valuable contributions to the young surveyors in Lagos State. And I want to welcome every young surveyor that is here to be a part of this program. I believe that we'll all learn and would also improve in whatever areas we need to improve on. So, Surveyor David, and to the entire mentorship team, we say thank you again. And so, over to you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that brief welcoming. That is the state chair for the YSN here in Lagos State. YSN in Lagos State is also a subgroup of the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors, and coincidentally is under the monitoring and under the supervision of the Vice President International, who is also one of our facilitators for today. So quickly, I'll go to read the profile of Jenny, and but before I do that, I would like to inform you that we're trying to see what we can do for the Zoom for as many of us who, in case we later have an overflow on the Zoom, so some people can join in through the YouTube. So I would be, once we have the link, then we'll share it so we can share it around to our friends who want to be a part of it. So a quick profile of Jenny now. Jenifer Whittal is a professor in geomatics division at the University of Cape Town. She obtained a BSc surveying and MSc engineering, specializing in GNSS from the University of Cape Town. In 2008, Jenny obtained a PhD from the University of Calgary, applying critical realism systems theory and mixed methods to the case of fiscal cadastral system reform. She's a professional land surveyor and lectures advanced surveying and land law. Research interests are land tenure and cadastral systems, sustainable development and resilience in land holding for the poor, historical property holding, and cadastral issues in the coastal zone. Jenny is the past chair of the African Regional Network of the FID, and in that capacity was involved in the pilot mentoring program for Africa run under the absence of the FIG. Excuse me, it is with pleasure and great joy that I present to you Jenifer Whittal to talk to us on mentoring. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please, you can.
Okay, let me try and get that right. Hopefully you can see that. Yes, okay, good. Right, so I've been asked to talk on what is mentorship. And yeah, that's who I am there on that slide, Jenny Whittal. So firstly, why do we need to know this? We started off right in the beginning of the Africa Network when I was an early chair to find out what actually people needed within the network. So we did some surveys and we found out that there was a strong call for networking There was also a need for knowledge development, both in technology and skills development, but as well as in soft things such as ethics, policy, how to read legislation, that sort of thing. But what came up very, very clearly was the need for mentoring, particularly a need of the young surveyors. So therefore, we got together the Africa Network, the Young Surveyors Africa Network, the Africa Regional Network of the FIG, and supported by SSI Australia, we then put together and ran our successful mentoring program earlier this year. But why mentoring? If there's anything we've learned over the last couple of years is that the future is possibly very uncertain, and we need to embrace resilience, not only to survive, but also to thrive. What sort of future are we planning for? What sort of future thinking do we need to engage in? So the phrases on the screen will be very familiar to many of you, and our gut reaction from the start is often fear and hopelessness and maybe even resignation. These feelings are even more keenly felt by young surveyors who face these challenges in their working lifetimes. But as a community of surveyors, we can embrace these challenges together. To do this effectively, we need to develop and leverage our soft skills, which are critically important to addressing these kinds of issues. But why is this an important thing to consider within our industry and particularly in Africa? The first reason is that it aligns with the SDGs. So SDG 4 relates to skills and entrepreneurship. SDG 8 deals with decent work. SDG 10 addresses inclusion, intergenerationality, and reduced inequality, while SDG 7 enhances partnerships to achieve the goals. FIG Africa Regional Network has a strong partnership with the young surveyors in Africa. And within this space, we need to develop the soft skills and also embrace this intergenerationality and inclusion that is so very important in our regional and national professional structures. So this requires strengthening the relationship between young people and the councils. Furthermore, the demographic bulge of young people in Africa is an opportunity to be embraced within our profession. The demographic dividend will be realized by harnessing the productivity, entrepreneurship, and innovation of the youth, which is all of you in the room. And we need to remember that the African population, 20% of it comprises young people. So engaging the youth will lead to integration of the youth within our profession and our workplace structures, and provide people with opportunities and promote resilience in the profession. So it's really, really important for professional longevity. It will provide the necessary interface as well between young people and the formal work programs of councils, regional bodies, and indeed the FIG. So that's the big picture. We all need to build mutually supportive relationships and networks. And I'm talking here not only about the wise ones, but also the young ones. We all need this. We all need to plan, not only to survive, but to thrive in this ever-changing world. And we all need to reflect on our role in society and the profession in order to plan for making a difference to our world. This can lead to meaningful work and volunteering activities. So this brings me to the subject of my presentation. What is mentoring and mentorship? So it's described in an online dictionary I managed to look up as the influence, guidance, or direction given by a mentor. A mentor is someone who teaches or gives help and advice to a less experienced and often younger person. In an organizational setting, a mentor influences the personal and professional growth of a mentee. So we tend to take this a step further than that. We feel that there are opportunities for both the mentor and the mentee. The mentee can learn from someone else who has wider and broader experience, but the mentor also really benefits by sharing their learnings, reflections, and giving guidance and sharing their accumulated wisdom. So through mentoring, both the mentor and mentee should develop their networking skills and extend their networks. They should learn a whole lot of new things about the industry. They should also learn a lot from each other. And in fact, that was one of the key findings we found in the surveys after the pilot program, was that a lot of the mentors really learned such a lot as well. And they found that time to pause and reflect also extremely useful to them. So it's not only an act of giving to be a mentor, it's also an act of receiving. And as a mentee, it's not only an act of receiving, you're also giving far more than you realize. We're also broadening thinking around innovation and technology. Just speaking about things really helps with that. And also, of course, you can gain CPD points for your council. So the mentoring process is valuable to both parties, the mentor and the mentee. The immediate obvious benefit is that the mentee receives guidance about their decision-making, their career pathway visibility, for instance, thinking about outside the box and thinking critically about their short-term, medium-term, and long-term future and how to plan for that. And yes, as I've mentioned, the mentor gains just as much. They think about their own choices they've made in life and indeed the future choices they have yet to make. They might gain new insights. And they have a real sense of benefiting from being involved in the life of another person. It's very, very fulfilling and rewarding. And we've seen that, as I've said, in the feedback that we've had from the pilot. And yes, one gets fresh inspiration, one gets insights from somebody else and maybe in a different country who has a different perspective in terms of their generation and the life they've lived. And that in itself can also be transformative, both to the mentor and the mentee. So yes, a mentor and the process of mentoring, I like that little quote there. I hope you can see it at the bottom there. A mentor is not someone who walks ahead of you to show you how they did it and expect you to follow in their footsteps. Maybe our parents expect that, but certainly the mentor doesn't. Okay, a mentor walks alongside you and shows you what you can do and maybe alerts you to think about things that you haven't yet thought about, and helps you with your decision making. They don't make decisions for you, but they help you to talk through it and see for you what is the best way for you in your situation, in your country, in order for you to have a really good and meaningful work life and personal life. So that's what mentoring is all about. I hope I've given it a good run through. I know I was given a lot more time, but I think that's done it justice, I hope. Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you very much. That was quite insightful, and thank you for talking about mentoring. Now, I want to believe that everybody here now understands what mentoring is all about, both by definitions and by explanations. So we'll now move on to, because of the time, and I know that I would not want to keep us beyond the allocated time. Jenny has been able to help us take back the times that we've lost trying to sort out some other issues. So I will just move down to our very own Surv Olumide Adewebi, the Vice President International, also a member of the pilot program for the FIG, to talk about the benefits of mentorship. So, sir, you have, okay, sorry, before I go on, before I allow him to do, please let me do a brief introduction of Surv Adewebi. Sorry about that, and I'm sorry to have omitted that part of the show. Yes, Surv Olumide Vincent Adewebi, FNIS, that's a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Surveyors, as we all know, for all of us that are here in Nigeria, is an alumnus of the Yaba College of Technology and also the Federal School of Surveying, Oyo. And over the years, he has been privileged to serve in different positions, right from the states in Lagos State down to the NIS National Public Secretary, down to the Secretary General, and also now the Vice President International. He's also is a past Secretary General for the Association of Professional Bodies of Nigeria, and also a past chairman of the Practicing Monitoring Tax Team for Nigerian Institute of Surveyors in Lagos State. He was also appointed by the Governor of Lagos State as a member of the Physical Planning and the Building Appeal Committee here in Lagos, and also a member of the Land and Building Commission of the Catholic Archdiocese of Lagos. He's also a speaker, a social media author, and a corporate MC, life coach, and a mentor. He has some online platforms for mentoring also, where we have the NIS Roundtable, the Surveying Nigeria, and SMILE, which is SMILE, S-M-I-L-E, which is Surveyors Motivated for Inspired Leadership and Ethics, and also anchors an online radio, which is called On Point Radio, talking about surveying. Is an executive director of Geosys Nigeria Limited and Special Geodata Service Limited, both based in Lagos, Nigeria. Surv Olumide and Adewebi, you're welcome to our program today. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like to share my screen as well.
You all have the right to share, sir.
Uh-oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Just give me a minute, please. It's a pleasure being here today with you, young surveyors of Lagos State, my branch. I also like to specially welcome our facilitators from abroad, Jenny, Roshni, and Shirley. Thank you so much for taking out time to share your experience and your knowledge with us. We're very, very grateful. I'll be talking about the benefits of mentorship. Mentor is someone who sees more talent and ability within you than you see in yourself and helps to bring it out of you. That was said by Bob.
You still have the wrong screen, sir.
Have the wrong screen? No, I do. I have the right screen. Are you sure? Okay. Are we good now?
Okay,
David,
we're
are
there
we
now.
good now?
Yes, very well.
Okay. There's this saying by Bob Proctor, about a self-help author and a lecturer, and he talks about what a mentor is. And a mentor is someone who sees more talent and ability within you than you see in yourself and helps bring it out of you. If you look at this image on my screen, it tries to show how we find ourselves at crossroads at different points in our careers. There's so many options before us, and we try to decide which way to go. Any one of these routes could lead us anywhere, but maybe just one of them will lead us to exactly where we're going. And how do we make these decisions? What's going to guide us? That is what a mentor does for us. So you ask yourself, is it really necessary to have a mentor? Is it something we need to have? Is it something that's necessary for us? I think so, absolutely. Because a mentor is a trusted guide who has successfully navigated the paths under consideration in a career. He or she can explain what is needed for success in an area of focus, assist in setting the priorities and goals for projects, and help you reach these goals. It also provides critical feedback in areas such as your communication skills, time management, interpersonal relationship, and your leadership skills. By sharing knowledge, he or she helps the mentee to avoid mistakes and contributes to their professional growth and experience. And it also helps open doors to numerous contacts who can provide opportunities for new learning skills and career growth. So having a mentor also increases your visibility by providing new networking opportunities and identifying potential collaborators of influence within your field of expertise. Because when your mentor introduces you to new contacts, it is most likely that those contacts will remember you. And when you put things before them, instead of just giving it a cursory glance, they would actually give it the attention it needs because you have been introduced by somebody that they already know. So this gives you access to a large pool of references for further career advancement. My job today is simple. I want to talk about the benefits of mentorship. And there are 12 reasons. Before we do that, let us talk about the 12 reasons why it's necessary you have a mentor. The first one is mentors support growth. A mentor encourages you and enables you to, and others to have professional and personal development. A mentor can help you focus your efforts by setting goals and giving you feedback. The second reason why you should have a mentor is that the mentor serves as a source of knowledge. Mentors can provide specific insights and information that enables the mentee to succeed. For example, they offer instructions on how to perform particular tasks or develop useful skills. Individuals starting their careers can benefit from such guidance, and it helps them feel comfortable in the role that they find themselves more quickly. 3, mentors help you to set goals. A mentor can help their mentees to set personal and professional development goals. For effective goal settings, they can create SMART goals. That means goals that are specific, achievable, manageable, relevant, and time-based. These goals can help focus the mentee's effort and make it easier for the mentor to track the progress they're making. 4, mentors maintain accountability. A mentor helps to hold the mentee accountable for their goals. Because the goals were set together with the mentee, it is easy for the mentor now to remind the mentee that we did set this goal. How far have you gone? Why are you not there yet? This was the time we allotted. And it helps the mentee to stay focused, particularly because the mentee now knows that somebody is out there that is waiting for an outcome. So the mentee tends to put in more efforts in achieving set goals. 5, mentors offer encouragement. When the mentee find themselves struggling to perform their job or to reach their goal, they can turn to their mentors for support. This encouragement can motivate them to keep moving forward despite the challenges that they face. The mentor can also identify and express the mentee's strengths to instill confidence in them. Having a strong sense of confidence can make the mentee less likely to give up on their goals. I'm sure all of us have been at such points before. 6, mentors help make connections. A mentor can help build the mentee's professional network. When the mentee identifies professional or personal goals, the mentor can connect them to potential opportunities or individuals who can help them achieve such goals. A mentor typically has more industry experience or a higher level in the career, and these connections can be valuable for career advancement. 7, mentors are willing to listen. When an individual has ideas, they can use their mentors as a resource to discuss or try them. The mentor can provide unbiased advice and opinions using relevant knowledge and experience. With these insights, the mentee can better understand what steps to take and whether to pursue the idea or just walk away. Similarly, the mentor can also listen and advise them on daily concerns, such as conflicts in the workplace. 8, mentor serves as a trusted ally. Trust represents a core element in the mentoring relationship. The mentee must trust that the mentor has their best interest in mind and will provide accurate and honest guidance. We have 4 more to go. 9, the mentors can offer constructive feedback. A trusting mentorship relationship enables honest feedback. By establishing trust, the mentee understands that constructive criticism aims to build their professional growth rather than to make them feel bad. Mentors can identify weaknesses and advise them on ways to improve. Because this is a professional relationship, the mentor plays an objective role. Meanwhile, a friend may hesitate to identify the mentee's weaknesses because they do not want to appear critical. 10, mentors provide guidelines. For individuals just starting their career, a mentor can help set guidelines for professional expectations. For example, they may clarify the priorities of the roles and proper workplace behaviors. These guidelines can help the mentee establish appropriate work habits that enable them to focus and perform their jobs successfully. These effective work habits can help them to be more productive and impress their superiors or their clients. 11, mentors have relevant experience. When possible, individuals should choose mentors who have the experience relevant to their professions of choice or the goals that they want to achieve. When mentors convey their successes, the mentee can use them as an example to strive towards and copy the steps that they took. Mentors can also share the mistakes they made along the journeys. The mentor benefits from this because they learn the lessons about the mistakes' negative impact without having to actually experience these mistakes themselves or suffer the consequences that come from them. Learning about these experiences can also help prepare the mentee for the challenges they expect to face and provide demonstrable advice on how to overcome them. Finally, the 12th reason for having a mentor is mentors are a free resource. Mentorship typically occurs due to networking or company or association programs like this one. So mentors do not seek payment. They offer to serve this role because they genuinely want to help the other individual grow and establish a more authentic and personal connection. The lack of payment also opens up mentorship for all types of people, rather than restricting this resource to only those that can afford it. Having said that, The summary and specific benefits of being mentored include being encouraged and empowered in personal development, being helped to identify and achieve career goals, being helped to identify and correct gaps in generic skills and knowledge, increasing your confidence, developing and maintaining a broader perspective on career options and opportunities, having access to a senior role model, gaining insight into what I call the professional culture, and finally, developing mentoring and coaching skills yourself, which you in turn would give on to others as a mentor, which you hope to become much later on in your career and in life. Let me close by a quote by Whittal, who is an American technology entrepreneur and academic. What you want in a mentor is someone who truly cares and who will look after your interests and not just their. When you do come across the right person to mentor you, start by showing them that the time they spend with you is worthwhile. I say this because it's commonplace. Many people want to say, I have a mentor, somebody that everybody knows, somebody of very high social standing, just to improve their own social status and not really interested in the mentoring process directly. And mentors catch on to this very, very early. One thing that is involved in the mentoring process is time, and we all know that time is money. Nobody wants to waste their time. So if you are lucky to find the right person to mentor you, please, the least you can do is to show them that the time they spend with you is worth. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having me. David, to you. David.
Okay. Thank you very much for helping us to do justice to the topic that says that benefits of mentors, the benefit of mentors, or rather say benefit of mentorship. Thank you very much. It's well expected. We trust that everyone that has been called here today will surely do good justice to the topics that have been given, and I'm sure people are now very inspired. I want to call on Shirley now so that she can take a section. Shirley is currently busy with the Zimbabwe Institute of Dramatics conference that's going on, and we need to relieve her. And I appreciate the fact that she was able to make time out to come and talk to us. There's supposed to be a flow, but I'm sure it has not disturbed anything. So Roshni would now then come later. So quickly, let me run through a brief about Shirley. Well, Shirley is well known. If some of us must have seen her, she's been on the YSN Lagos event at the GIS Day before. But aside that, she's been doing a lot for the FIG, and by the capacity of what she holds now for the FIG, you must have seen her name or her post somewhere, somehow. So this is Shirley now. I don't want to talk about Shirley based on the personal relationship. So let me talk about Shirley based on what she had given to us to let people know about her. So Shirley Chapunza from Zimbabwe is an aspiring researcher working with an assistant researcher. She's also the vice president of the Zimbabwe Institute of Dramatics and also the FIG Young Surveyors African Network chair, which I happen to be a rep. And also she is the incoming vice chair for the FIG YSN, starting from January. Our background is in land surveying and GIS, experience in public health research, land surveying, and engineering surveying. It gives me great pleasure and honor to welcome to everyone here, to welcome Shirley to everyone here today. Shirley, you have the floor. You're welcome. Thank you for making our time.
Well, thank you so much, David. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you well.
Amazing. So I'll also just share my screen for a moment.
And share your screen, please.
All right. All right, so I thank you so much, David and the Young Surveyors Network Lagos branch for inviting me to your discussion about this important subject. So I'll just talk about mentoring relationship over the next few minutes. So I just want us to start with maybe defining what a mentoring relationship is all about. So first and foremost, I just want to make it clear that we cannot speak of mentorship without speaking of a relationship. So this is like one of the critical aspects of any mentoring program, establishing the relationship between a mentor and their mentee, or a mentee and their mentor. So what is it? It is an interpersonal and professional connection. This simply means that it can be on the basis of profession, or like the connection can be on the basis of professional understanding, or it can go deeper to, getting to know someone on a personal level. And also, I think it's important to note that as a mentee who is hoping to look for a mentor, we should approach a mentoring relationship with a reciprocity, a mindset. It's a two-way street. Even though you may be the mentee in the relationship, you realize that your mentor may also be learning from you as well. And that is very important, to always show up intentionally and be accountable for how the relationship is maintained. This reciprocity mindset is just so to ensure that the mentoring relationship is effective and sustainable in the long term. So how do you build, or how to have a good mentoring relationship? I think one thing that is very important to note, especially as a mentee, even as for mentors, it's that this is a relationship that requires both parties to show up with intentionality. Be intentional about what you are doing in your relationship, how you are serving the other person, and also just to reiterate on what Surveyor Olumide just said a few minutes ago, appreciate that someone has set time aside to accommodate you and also to help with your career development journey. So how do you show up with intentionality? One good example is to be receptive. Be receptive in the way, receptive towards the kind of response or feedback that you get. And this is again a two-way street, because you realize that in some instances, mentees have challenges communicating with their mentors on how they are probably not getting their guidance when it comes to certain aspects. So the reception is very important on both parties as well. And another way to be intentional in a mentoring relationship is to be accountable. Accountable for your actions, accountable for how you show up in the relationship, and also making it a point that the person that you are working with actually says that you appreciate their effort and you are there, and you're not really missing anything. And then another way again is also to be patient. And I think with this again goes both ways, in the sense that some mentees take their time with to certain change. Sorry, may we please switch off our microphones? I think there's some interruption. Well, thank you. So as I was saying, that patience is another way of maintaining a good mentoring relationship, in the sense that the mentor needs to understand that people adjust to different circumstances differently. And also the mentee needs to understand that the mentor is showing up and this is voluntary work. They are not getting paid for it. So you can be patient with maybe adjusting deadlines, or maybe adjusting meeting times and so forth. And also one important aspect, which I strongly feel has been one of the motivations towards developing the FIG mentoring program, it's mental health issues. it's very important for both the mentee and the mentor to support each other emotionally and to ensure that you are not costing the other part by maybe your remarks, your comments, or just different things. So how do mentoring relationships transition? So first and foremost, every relationship has got a starting point. So it's the same with mentoring relationships as well. You have got the initiation stage where you are introduced to your mentor. Maybe it's someone that you're meeting for the first time, like for some mentors in the case of our FIG mentoring program, or maybe this is someone that you already know, but you probably know them on a different level. So once you start your relationship, acknowledge that every relationship has got an initiation stage, and in this stage, the mentee is just coming in as an apprentice, someone who is learning, someone who is to be groomed. But over time, this relationship can move to the redefinition stage, which you realize that if you show up with the reciprocity mindset, you realize that you now interact with each other, that is the mentee and the mentor, with a mindset with a peer mindset. I'm learning from you as you are learning from me, because then again, there are generational gaps, and I do believe that we all have something to learn from the next person. And then after the redefinition stage, based on how it goes, you may go to the separation stage. That is, the relationship has ended. As a mentee, you feel you're ready for autonomy and you're ready to go your own way. Or it could go to the cultivation stage, which I do hope that as you are navigating this mentoring program within the Young Surveyors Network Lagos branch, most relationship will get to, because this can develop into lifelong friendships, and because your relationship started on the basis of mentorship, you still be inspiring each other throughout your careers and throughout life. So how do you prepare for a mentoring relationship? I think one way to prepare for a mentoring relationship is to be aware of what you expect from this relationship, because it's very important. You cannot be intentional about something if you are not clear on what it is that you expect from it. So I think it's very important that before you even enter into a mentoring relationship, you be clear on what is expected of you and what it is that you expect from your mentor as well. And maybe just to guide, and maybe with just a few tips, one way to be prepared for, to be sure rather of what it is that is expected of you or that you expect, is to maybe you have a list of questions that you hope to ask your mentor, and that can probably guide you in the process of deciding what it is that you want out of that relationship. And some of the questions can be around goal formulation, they can be around skills to achieve the goals, like your career goals or academic goals, depending on the nature of the mentoring relationship. Or it could be questions around solutions in the workplace. Maybe you've been struggling with certain things in the workplace and you feel that you're probably ready to, you probably need guidance and support from someone in order for you to navigate that phase or season of your career. That could be one way of figuring out what it is that you want out of a mentoring relationship. Another way as well is to, cultivate feedback on whatever you may be working on from workplace, and also have casual relationships, like casual conversations with your mentor, just so you're clear on things. With that being said, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And I don't know if there are any questions on how to build a good mentoring relationship between a mentee and a mentor. Thank you, David. Over to you.
Okay, Shirley, thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Yes, to everyone, if you have questions, just drop it in the chat box. We'll attend to them after all presentations have been done. Shirley, thank you very much. Thank you for making our leaving very soon. So I wish you all the best with your event in Zimbabwe, and say me well to everyone in Zimbabwe. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, David. You have a nice one. I think I'll be excusing myself now. I'll just check through the chat box, and if there's anything I can respond to, I'll type. If not, I'll be excusing myself. All right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next speaker is going to be talking about how to choose a good mentor. Yes, she's an expert in this. She started the Triple SI mentoring program for many of us that benefited from that mentoring program. She actually came up with the ideas, and she has been able to do a lot with it, which she has also handed over to some persons to continue with. She leads in so many things. Yes, she's my leader on the VCSP also. So I'll just do a brief of our profile now so that she can also do our presentation. Yes, her name is Roshni Sharma. She's Indian, then she's Australian, but I think she's more of she's more of the Indian than the Australian, permit me to say. Then, having traversed environmental science and management, human geography, climatology, and business, Roshni is a thought leader, a passionate disruptor, a connector, and someone who gets things done. She is making it alive. She's making it our life's work to harness location intelligence to create tangible, positive change for society, creating real traction around sustainability and leveraging tech for good. Roshni loves dog, but not cats. Yes, I'm surprised she didn't even come with the dogs today, but I know the dogs are somewhere hiding under the table, trying not to distract us. But if it's dog, I can confirm that to you. Experimental cooking, yes. She once asked to taste our Nigerian jollof rice before, so that's also confirmed. And reads copiously at every opportunity. At Frontier XI, Roshni is at the forefront of the industry, bringing together cutting-edge innovation into useful application for academia, industry, and government. Roshni is also the lead for the FIG YSN Volunteer Community Surveying Program and is certified leadership coach at our business, Vista Soft Skills Solution. One thing again I must add to it again is that Roshni took time to, ordinarily Roshni should be sleeping now, and but she told me she wouldn't mind that she can stay all night just to give our presentation and inspire others. So Roshni, we appreciate you for this. Thank you for coming. Please, you have the floor. I'm very sure you will all be able to pick her because I know her style of talking. She will pick them. She said them one by one. So enjoy digesting it. Thank you very much, Roshni. You have the floor.
Thank you, David. That was such a lovely introduction, and you definitely know me well. I like cooking, I like dogs, and I like reading, and I love helping people. So I'm really honored that you reached out to me and asked me to take part in this opportunity. Thank you for having me here. I'm also going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Great. So, hello everyone. I hope that this presentation helps you to understand how to choose a mentor. This flows on really well from what you've heard from our other presenters today, from Jenny, from Olumide, from Shirley, and they've covered a lot of really useful points so far about what mentoring is, how you can make a mentoring relationship successful, and what benefits having a mentor brings for you personally. So I've had some experience myself in how to choose a mentor, and I've also had experience in how to tell whether a mentoring relationship is going well and being useful for you, or whether it's not quite giving you what you want. Every mentoring relationship is different, and I think it's important to understand what you want to get from a mentoring relationship to begin with. So the advice that I tend to give is, when you are thinking about what you would like to achieve with a mentoring relationship, a good place to start, as a number of our speakers have mentioned today, is to think about what your goals are. Part of this is thinking about where you are now. The other part is being very ambitious and dreaming, because it's incredible to stop and think about how time passes. If you think about 5 years ago, what were you doing? Where were you in life? And what challenges were you facing? It really puts things into perspective to realize how far you've come in only 5 years. If you change that around and think about what might your life and career look like 5 years into the future, there's a lot of potential. So you don't need to have all the answers. When you set your goals, be ambitious and think about what the gap is between here, where you are now, and what you want your goals to be. When you start to think about what the gap is, you might start to think about, what knowledge and skills do you need to gain? What people do you need to include in your network? What is it that you really need to start thinking about to be able to understand what your goal will feel like to achieve? What will it look like to achieve? Thinking about some of these things helps you think about who might be a useful mentor to help you to bridge that gap. So is there somebody that you know, or even may not yet know properly, but might find on Google or LinkedIn, who might have some of that knowledge, who might have some of those networks, who might have some of that experience? That can help you to identify who the right mentor might be for you. Now, once you have actually worked out who the person is, let's just say you've spoken with them and they've said, yes, I'll happily be your mentor. What happens then? Things that are really important for you to do to be able to build and maintain some of that trust and respect that Jenny, Olumide, and Shirley mentioned is to approach them with a professional perspective. So set the meetings, work out what the correct time length for each meeting is. If your mentor is extremely busy, maybe it can be a half-hour meeting. If your mentor has a little bit more time, maybe it can be 1 hour. How frequently? Talk with your mentor to ask these questions. The right mentor for you will not mean somebody who gives you all of their time. The right mentor for you will be somebody who gives you enough time, and in the time that you have, asks you the right questions, explains you what some resources could be, and is able to share what their experiences have been, not expecting that you will walk in the same steps as them, but giving you plenty to think about. So when you have a meeting, make sure that you take note of what they say, and that before your next meeting, you prepare beforehand. Let them know when the meeting will be. Will it be on phone call or Zoom? How will it take place? Communicate, communicate, communicate. Make sure that you play your role as mentee to be able to know that they respect you. When you're choosing a mentor, it can be really important to understand that not everybody will be a good fit for you. Sometimes it depends upon interpersonal factors. So it may not be the right chemistry. You may not be able to communicate in a way where the other person can understand what you're actually hoping to get from them. Sometimes it may be a personality clash. All of these things are really hard to tell on paper. So in some cases, it takes a little bit of trying to see whether you get along. Maybe you message them on LinkedIn or email. Maybe you meet them through a friend and ask someone to recommend you. Interpersonal things can be really hard to tell. So be aware that that may influence the success of your mentoring relationship. Another thing to be aware of is availability. Some mentors might just be extremely busy. If that's the case, there are a few options for you. One is to ask if there's someone else that they know who they could recommend that you could speak to get mentoring. Often, if someone is really busy, it's not that they don't want to help you. It's that they themselves just don't have the capacity, but they may have a colleague or someone in their team or a friend whom they may be able to recommend you to. Another option, if you really want that one person, is to ask them if you could approach them again in 3 months or 6 months or a year. If you really would like to work with that person, it's worth asking if there's a better time in the future. The other thing to consider is whether their experience is actually right for you. And think about what your experience is that you might be able to bring to help them. As all of our speakers so far have mentioned, mentoring is a two-way street. It's not one way. So think about what you might be able to bring to them as well. Once you have spoken with a mentor, a couple of things to start the conversation with them might be to begin by asking about what their journey is. How did they get to where they are? What are some of the key lessons that they've learned along the way? It can then be useful to present your goals so that they understand what you're hoping to get from them, and then ask them about the pathway. What might be some things that they could suggest about how you could get from where you are now to where you want to go to? And then based on what they say, dig deeper. Part of mentoring is questioning and listening, and that goes two-way. They will ask you questions and they will listen to what you have to say. Likewise, you will ask them questions and listen to what they have to say. As you develop your mentoring relationship, it can be very important to take notes, make sure that you remember what they say, and reflect upon what they say and how this impacts your progress. Think about what your timeline is, because as you start to learn information, start to get resources recommended to you, these might shift your goal. They may also produce new goals. The most important thing when working with a mentor is to take charge of your journey. This is not their journey. This is your journey. You're in control of how long the mentoring relationship goes for. You're in control of what progress you make towards your goal and the effort that you put in. So the biggest thing is to take charge. Don't look to them to reach your goal. Look to them for accountability, for guidance, for advice, but it's your journey, so you need to take the steps. As you progress on your mentoring journey, think about how you're making progress. Also, find opportunities where you can give back to your mentor. Keep in mind that this needs to be done within the scope of professional ethics. So your mentor should not take advantage of your ability to do work for them or your ability to do anything. Your mentor is someone who guides and supports you on your journey, but they shouldn't expect anything in return. Ensure that you work to create a safe space for professional vulnerability, and make sure that you continue to ask for feedback, because they will be in a unique position to be able to help you. Along the way, if you find that any of these things become hard to do, for example, if you find that they are pushing you to make certain decisions that they think are right for you, but you may not feel are right for you, that means that you're not making progress towards the goals that you want. Likewise, if they expect something from you in return, that's a red flag. If you don't feel that it's a safe space to be vulnerable professionally, of course, there are personal boundaries to keep in place. This is not the same as a friendship. That's another cause for concern. And if you're finding that it's not possible to give feedback or receive feedback, again, this is something to be careful of. What you do not expect from a mentor is someone who will tell you what to do or expect you to make decisions that they have said would be good for you. A mentor, as that fabulous quote that Olumide had at the end of his presentation, a mentor is somebody who will guide you but won't expect you to do what they say. Likewise, as Jenny mentioned, a mentor is someone who will not seek to shape you in their image. They will be somebody who will seek to help you become your potential. So if a mentor is expecting you to do things their way, it's time to be careful. Likewise, you don't want a mentor who will just talk about themselves. A mentor should be there to provide some of their experiences, but the focus should be on you as the mentee. If you don't feel comfortable speaking with your mentor for whatever reason, it's useful to listen to your gut, listen to your instinct, because that may be a sign that this is not the right person for you. And again, if somebody doesn't behave professionally, if they seek to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable or crosses your boundaries, that's another sign that things are not quite right. So if the mentoring relationship isn't working, or if you find that it's just not the right mentor for you, here are 4 things which are really useful. 1, retain respect. Our industry is a small industry globally, and we all know each other. Therefore, it's really important that you protect your reputation and you have control over that. So, speak respectfully to your mentor. If you're able to provide them with feedback about what's not working, that's useful. If you don't feel like you're able to do that yet, it's okay. You might be able to provide them that feedback in the future. Secondly, appreciate the effort and time that they have put in so far, because they have given you time out of their very busy schedule and they have tried. Sometimes interpersonal relationships don't quite work, not because of anyone's fault, but just the balance isn't quite right, and that's okay. So make real effort to let them know how grateful you are for the time that they've spent with you. And then conclude the relationship with grace. So put in effort to really let them know that you have learnt something from the time that you have spent with them. Let them know specifically what some of those key lessons are. Let them know what has been useful for you. And finally, privately, it can be useful to reflect upon what part you played in the relationship? What can you learn? Because if something's not working, it takes two people. This can be useful to think about in terms of the learnings that you get upon reflecting about your part in the relationship. Those things might help you in other work relationships or with future mentoring relationships. So I hope that this has been useful. I wish you all the best in finding mentors, either in a structured program like the mentoring program that we ran a pilot for in Africa, or in personally reaching out informally to people within your workplace or your network, or even people you may not know yet. Mentoring is very rewarding. It's a great process. And don't forget that once you have learnt something and started on your career, you can reach out to other people and be their mentor as well. Thank you very much. Back to you, David.
Thank you very much, Roshni. Thank you for being so explicit. We appreciate you. So we'll just move straight to questions and answers now. And I've seen a lot of questions on the chat box, so I would be okay. Now we'll be taking the questions one after the other. And well, I think it will just be open to any one of the facilitators to answer and contribute to. Let me go straight to the first one, except there's anyone that is directed to any of the particular speaker. So okay, now I have one here that says the importance of mentorship for mentee is being understood. Thanks to our panelists, it has been said that mentorship is a two-way relationship. I have a question for the panelists. What can mentors learn or benefit in their relationship with mentees? So I don't know who wants to answer this question. Okay, Roshni. Okay.
So much. Mentors can gain so much. Mentees bring a fresh perspective. They are able to ask questions because they don't have the patterns of thinking that sometimes you get when you have been doing something over and over for many years. So mentees, they bring fresh perspective. They can bring innovation. They bring energy, so much energy. They can be so inspiring, and they remind you of why you got into this industry in the first place and what a beautiful industry it is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah. I had a personal experience with late Surv Adekunle Kukoyi, one of our past presidents. I think it was 2 months before he died. And we were talking. Something that hasn't happened in a long time happened. He got to hear that a younger person, a very young surveyor, became the chairman of the Lagos State branch. And he asked me, he said, how come a young person became chairman of the branch? I said, sir, there are so many young people in the profession today. And then he said, there's this thing about being digital and analog. And I said, sir, are you not interested in being digital? And he said, well, you don't have the training of you can't have the training of 1989 in 1959. So like Roshni said, young surveyors, mentees bring in completely brand new perspectives about things that mentors already have a fixed position about. So the mentor is learning as much as the mentee is learning as well. So that's why we say it's a two-way street. And that's why some people actually want to get into mentorship, because it keeps them abreast of what is going on. So there's so much a mentee can teach a mentor, so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Well, we'll move to other questions that we have here that says, and I'll direct this question to Jenny now. It says, in the situation where your mentor is having a multi-million project and he wants you to execute the assignment, and he wants you to execute the assignment with the mind having it carried out free of charge because he's your boss or your mentor. I know this is common, and this is one of the reasons why I think many young surveyors will not want to get attached to any mentor because we could not differentiate between whether it is slavery or it is adding value. So Jenny, you have the floor to answer the question, please.
Yes, thank you. I actually said to David, I want to answer that one. And I think this particular question addresses some of the confusion about what a mentor or who a mentor is and who it isn't. And I think the most important thing is that your mentor is not your boss and really shouldn't be someone in your company even, I think. I think if you're going to choose a successful mentoring relationship, it should be completely separate from your day-to-day work. The person who employs you may fulfill some mentoring role in your life, but I think you can't look at that person as your primary mentor. They might very well give you advice and so on, but I would just strongly stay away from choosing that person who is your boss or in a senior position in your company or your university or wherever as your mentor. If I was to look for a mentor now, I would choose somebody probably outside of the university completely. I wouldn't even want someone in my university, even though it's a huge place, because the walls talk and the passages talk. And yeah, you want to be able to have that relationship with that person and be on a more even footing, for them to learn from you, you to learn from them. There shouldn't be any high stakes. And I think it's very high stakes when you have your boss as your mentor. You cannot feel free to say what's on your mind. The employer also can't feel free to show vulnerabilities maybe and so on, unless they're extremely emotionally intelligent and put together. So I really think that's to be avoided. So all the questions about abuse in the workplace, I think that's not abuse by a mentor, that's abuse by your employers. And that has to be addressed maybe through your institute, through your council, if it's unprofessional conduct or it's unethical what is happening there, that needs to be addressed through professional channels. And certainly there should be the structures in place to do that. If you cannot resolve it within your own workspace. But perhaps what can help in that kind of situation is having a mentor completely outside of that environment. You can bounce that off and say, look, I don't know if I'm overreacting here. This is what's happening. I'm not too comfortable. What do you think? And then the person can be a bouncing board and say, well, from their experience, that sounds a little bit out of order. That doesn't sound very professional. And you might then have the confidence to say, well, actually what I'm feeling is probably has worth, and I need to listen to what I'm feeling rather than I'm overreacting. And also that mentor may have much more experience on what are the remedies for that situation. What are the various things you possibly could do? For instance, firstly, speaking to that person face to face would be the right thing to do. Failing that, going higher. Failing that, eventually your professional organization. So yeah, that mentor might be able to advise you based on what they know about the professional organization and workplace protocols and so on in your country. So yeah, I just that person who's causing you to work for nothing or work in inhumane way, that person is not your mentor. Thanks, David.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you for that coaching rather. Okay, okay, I know you want to contribute to this, but I also had this question to it, so you contribute to it and also answer the next questions, because I think the question is directed to you. It says, how is it possible to leverage the 12 benefits of mentorship by Surv Olumide if one has a distant mentor, like a role model that does not know you are his or her mentee? So you had that question to the contribution you want to do, sir.
I know a lot of you might think that, Jenny has offered you a lot of insight about how to manage your mentorship relationship. And a lot of it stems from the choices we make. I've seen some of the chats where some of you said, Professor Jenny doesn't really know what we go through here in Nigeria. The question is, you're confusing a lot of other relationships and confusing it to look like it's a mentorship relationship. It really is not. And I know that what you're making reference to is your pupillage period, the pupillage period that you go through before being registered as surveyors. And she's giving you the insight you really need. You should, if you're not free with your mentor, if you cannot actually express your mind fully in what you call a mentorship relationship, you're shortchanging yourself. You're shortchanging yourself. You're just binding time away. And if you get used in such a relationship, it's actually most times your fault, because you're trying to please, you're trying to associate. You're actually not really interested in going through a mentorship position. You're trying to be in, you think you're in a right place, and you think that something is going to rub off positively for you there. The responsibility of mentor, like Roshni said, is yours. It is you that wants to develop yourself. The mentor, and I keep telling you guys all the time, I ask you the question, who is the greatest surveyor amongst us? And my answer is always the same. The greatest surveyor amongst us is the surveyor coming behind you, not the surveyor ahead of you. Because the surveyor ahead of you is already known. You know what he is. But the surveyor coming behind you has the potential. You don't know what he can be. So don't put yourself in a relationship. For some of you, a mentor is anyone who is older than you, who is higher than you in the profession. He's your mentor. And everybody wants to associate himself with success. So you don't want to tell your friends that your mentor is Mr. X, and they ask you, who is Mr. X? We don't know him. You want to associate yourself with a star mentor, so everybody will think you know somebody somewhere. So I think you should define what you want. There is pupillage, there is employment, and there is mentorship. If you want mentorship, then you have to sit down and think seriously about who is going to mentor you. And Roshni has taken you through the steps. So did Shirley also tell you how to manage your mentorship. A lot of you think a mentor is supposed to give you money, pick your bills, and at the same time, some mentors think that you're there to serve them. I mean, I can't be telling you things, and you're not going to do my laundry, you're not going to pick up my groceries, and you're not going to work for me for free. So look for the right fit. For those of you who are married, you know that you didn't marry the first person that came up to you. You looked for certain qualities, right? For those of you who are buying a car, you don't buy the first car that parks in front of you and says for sale. There are things you look out for. The same thing works with mentorship. There are things you have to look out for, and it has to be the right fit. What works for David might not work for you. What works for me might not work for you. As for the distance in relationships, right now in this room, we have somebody from Australia, we have somebody from South Africa, and you just spoke to somebody from Zimbabwe. How closer do you need to be? Technology is completely on your side. So all you have to do is leverage on that. Put in the time. Respect yourself as a mentee. If you respect yourself as a mentee, you will understand the commitment being put in by somebody who has agreed to mentor you. Be on time. Be professional. That is the key word here. It's not, you're not friends. You're not buddies. He's your mentor or she's your mentor and you're the mentee. Be focused about what that relationship is, and that way you'll be able to get the best of it. Thank you.
Okay, so then quickly we move to the 12 benefits of mentorship that you've mentioned. How can it be applied to a distance mentor where the role model does not even know you are actually following with him. So
How would
the
you
12
say,
benefits, how can you apply it
how
to
would you
distance
say your
mentorship?
mentor doesn't know you? Roshni said you start by asking somebody, how did you become what you are? You develop a relationship. You don't get to know everything about somebody at the first meeting. So there's nothing about the 12 points you get to know over time. The mentor has knowledge. I mean, if he's the Surveyor General of Namibia now, you'd ask him, why did he choose to become a surveyor? How did he become a Surveyor General? So he shares his experience with you. I'm sure you will get to know all the 12 benefits of mentorship can be applied to any relationship. Now, the relationship we're talking about here is not distance bound. Let us understand that. People have been mentoring people even through letters. Way back before the internet, before Facebook, before Zoom. People have been mentored all over the centuries. As far back as you can think about it, people have been mentored. It's about communication. Now, communication can be in so many forms. You can mentor somebody by email. You don't really have to be in the same room with the person. So it's about focusing on the relationship and using what you have to make that relationship work. So all the 12 benefits can work for you, irrespective of the distance you find between yourself and your mentor. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Also to buttress, I know sometimes too, there are some speakers we try to follow, motivational speakers or so, and we try to follow up with their speeches. And when we follow up, if you also want to be a motivational speaker, you follow up with how the person talks, how they do their presentations and everything. And before you know, you begin to key into, this person does not even know you have been following. You just know that maybe people have been listening somewhere, but you're also taking advantage of that view that you have been having about the person, but the person does not even know about it. Yes, we are pressed for time, but I will try to do justice to all the questions that have been asked, because the program is actually created to educate people, and let's see how far we can move from here in developing ourselves as young surveyor. So the next question is, as a young surveyor, I believe we should have multiple mentors who can broaden our knowledge and experience in different aspects of surveying. How does a young surveyor navigate a relationship with a senior surveyor who has given excessive workload and do not permit he or her to engage engage professionally with other mentors? Well, I think this question has been stylishly answered in a way, because we're still talking about, Jenny did mention something about differentiating work and being a mentor. A mentor does not necessarily mean the person who is sending you to go and get something. It might just be somebody who is always there to listen to you, and or you're also benefiting from one thing or the other that the person is also doing. So it all boils down to your choice, because you chose the mentor and there's no sign agreement. I think for work as a boss, you sign an agreement to take a contract that we want to work with this person. But when it comes to mentorship, it's an agreement. You can decide to terminate it and it doesn't really matter. So I think that has been answered by the panelists that we have today. So I'll go to the next one. When choosing a mentor, we need to consider, okay, when choosing a mentor, we need to consider some matches as well, which includes their hobbies and their strength and their weakness. My question is, how do we manage bad match? Yes, I know, before I allow the facilitators to answer, I know why we were trying to also get the matches for the pilot program. There were a lot of issues trying to be sure that the matches would actually be befitting. And for like 2 weeks, there was a lot of follow-up to be sure that is this match, because we don't know who they are. So, and thank God we have the team who worked on it here now, so they can share for their experience and see, maybe we can have some take home from it. How do we deal with managing bad match of mentors and mentee? So I don't know who would want to answer these questions.
Jenny should.
Okay, I think Jenny was the one dealing
Jenny
with
should.
matches.
She's
So
the
I know
matchmaker.
she should.
She's the matchmaker.
Okay. So Jenny, you have the floor, please. Your mic is
Sorry, I was
muted.
lost there a minute. I had something urgent I quickly had to attend to. Just run through the question for me again, please.
Okay,
Yeah, it's how to deal with bad matches. Okay, sorry. So it's how to deal with bad matches. The person says that, okay, we need to understand the hobbies of the mentor. We also need to understand the strength and their weaknesses. So how do you deal with bad matches of mentors and mentees?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is they aren't bad people necessarily, they're bad matches. So some of the issues we came up with were health issues that people had, extreme work overload that they couldn't manage on both sides, both mentors and mentees. So when it doesn't work, and then there was one where there wasn't a very big age gap between the two, and the I can't remember which part of the pair wanted to be repaired. So that's a fair enough request. So yeah, labeling things bad, I would say just things that don't work out as well as they should, then you need to look at repairing someone. But we didn't have too many of those. Most of the time, the matches weren't working, but the individuals really, really wanted to make it work and really tried very hard, but didn't finish on time. Yeah, so and each one was for its own reason. There were reasons why the matches didn't work. And in some cases, those can't really be overcome, particularly when you've got a managed program over a certain period of time, and every 2 weeks you need to be moving on to the next topic. If you've got a mentor-mentee relationship that's indefinite, which is a completely different thing, that's outside of a managed program, then you can wait for someone to get well again. You can talk through issues and move beyond them, hopefully. I don't know if that answers the question. I don't know that there's a very easy one size fits all type of answer. I think in all cases you have to deal with each case on its own. And if you are looking for your own mentor and you find that not to be a good fit, I think somebody else mentioned earlier, leaving with honor the person as you leave. It's always good to have the positive sandwich. You've really helped me in this and this and this way, but I feel that this is where, it's really not working for me, and I need to look for somebody that can fit that particular aspect. But I really appreciated what you told me about this. So it's that positive sandwich, a good thing, a difficult thing, and then thank you so much for what you've done. This is what I've learned. Let the person feel valued in some way, even if it hasn't been easy for you. On both sides, that's very important to do, to respect the person and give them positive feedback and not only negative. Yeah, I don't know if that's helped in any way to answer. Maybe others need to chip in as well.
I'd like to add something here as well, and then I'll pass to Olumide. I can see you're very keen to say things. I think it's really important to add that sometimes when your mentor isn't who or what or how you expected them to be, you can bring resistance yourself. So if I have a mentor who is younger than me, which I have had in the past, initially I was like, they're younger than me. This isn't going to work. And then I was like, oh no, hang on. I can do this. I can learn from them. It's okay. Sometimes it's worth thinking about how they challenge you and what you can do to overcome some of those challenges. Another thing that I think that is very important is, as Olumide says, remember you're in charge. So if you've tried and you've given it a proper go and it's still not working, then it's worthwhile considering how you can shift that relationship gracefully. Olumide, over to you.
You can actually read my mind. I know how challenging this is for a lot of you. I'm talking about the professional culture we have in Nigeria here, including the Nigerian culture where trying to tell an elderly person that you're walking out of a relationship could easily be termed as either arrogance or bad manners or you're rude. That is why your choice of a mentor has to be something you don't rush, because you're expecting the person to be big enough to allow you to have a positive contribution and a voice in this relationship. If you're not going to have a voice in your mentoring relationship, then it's doomed not to work for you, even though it's working for your mentor. It's doomed not to work for you. I think you should be bold enough in when you establish that you already have a mentor and the mentor agrees to have you, you should have an exit protocol. What happens if this doesn't work out? How do I go about it? Am I to tell you? I hope you won't take offense if I tell you, if after some time, maybe you also find out that it's not working for you. I expect you to be able to tell me. So you've already created a platform to have that discussion, should it happen. The other thing, like Roshni said and Jenny said, is you should be appreciative of effort. But before you come to a decision that it's not going to work, have that 100% conviction within yourself that you have done everything possible. Because it's normal for young people to say, I don't want this anymore because it's not working the way I want. Or maybe you take a peek and look at the mentorship relationship of your friend and say, look, I think I want that. That's what I want. Okay? So you have to be very careful. But if you've created that platform where that honest discussion can be made, you can easily tell somebody, like Jenny said, I thank you for the time we've had. These are the issues I'm having. And if it can be resolved, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. And I hope we can still be friends. And you just move on. Remember, you're in charge. There is no gain staying in the mentorship relationship because you don't want to offend any other person's sensibilities. The objective of the mentorship is for you to grow, not for your mentor to feel good. Always remember that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight. So we have another question here that says that, okay, this as always, I think in a way we've answered the question. It says, my question is, as a young surveyor, is it possible to choose a mentor outside of your state of origin or country? I think we talked about what the technology has been able to help us to achieve. I think I also chipped in that sometimes you also tend to learn from people who don't even know you're learning from them, maybe as motivational speakers, or they're doing something that attracts you and you feel you want to have an insight on how they're doing it and you want to also develop your own aspect. So that's already settled. There's a question that said, for how long can you study someone before you choose a mentor? So I think Roshni will have to answer this because she's the one that talked about how to choose a mentor. So for how long is it required for you to stay and study the person before you choose the person as your mentor?
I think sometimes you could know them for years and consider that you would like to be mentored by them but not ask them. And sometimes you might only have seen their LinkedIn profile or heard them speak at an event and think, that person has the energy that I like. I wish I could learn from them. I think it's really important to think about what you are hoping to gain from your mentoring relationship with them so that when you approach them, you're prepared to explain it and show that you will make good use of the time that they give you. Another way to think about it is put yourself in their shoes. If you have just been at an event and somebody that you met at the event approaches you and says, "Hi, can you be my mentor?" What questions would you have for them? You'd want them to tell you a little bit about themselves and why they chose you. I'm guessing you might want to know what time commitment they might be seeking from you. And you might want to ask them, how do you think I can help you? So being prepared is perhaps more useful than how long you have known them or heard about them. Of course, as Olumide and Jenny mentioned, the cultural context is something to consider. I know from being Australian, in Australia, people will ask you straight away. However, from my Indian background, Fiji Indian background, respect and hierarchy are very important. So it's worthwhile really, really preparing before you approach somebody so that you do not mess it up. So think about your cultural context, be clear on what your values are, and make sure that you act in a way which aligns with your values so that you feel good about it. That's the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Jenny, I'll make you make a contribution to this, but also answer this question. I know very well why planning for the pilot program that there were issues. We're trying to also consider how to bridge the age gap, and I think it was part of the statement we made. So there's a question here that talks about there is a wide generational gap between the early career young surveyors and the late career established surveyors. This gap manifests in several ways, e.g. the fear of professional vulnerability. How can mentors and mentees successfully navigate this generational gap? So I'll let you make a contribution to what Roshni has said and also do justice to this question. So you have the floor.
Well, what Roshni said just gone clean out of my head, what I was going to say. Yeah, so I'll carry on with the question. The question, about intergenerationality and challenges of vulnerability and so on. That was what I was going to say. I was going to follow up before I go on to that about exposing yourself, and perhaps, we are a small industry within each nation, and if things do go badly, if things are not too good, sometimes that news can travel. So well, that's intentionally why we within the pilot program tried to link people across countries, but within regions. So we had we tried to link Nigerians with people outside Nigeria, so that they got the benefit of some wider experience as well, and different cultural experience, but not too wildly different because it's within the region. But also to manage that risk of when things go wrong, you're not now bad-mouthed by somebody that knows everybody important in the country. I think one doesn't need that as an early stage young surveyor. So that's one way to mitigate against that risk, is to find mentors from within your region, but not within your country. And that's what we tried our best to do. The intergenerationality and the vulnerability on both sides. I mean, I think as a young person, you can feel extremely afraid in a way to make contact or to show vulnerability to an older person, which you should be out there to impress after all. And for an older person to show vulnerability towards a younger person, I think it takes a lot of, oh, sorry, everyone's lost audio. Can you still hear me, David?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, someone's lost audio. I don't think it's everyone. So I think from the mature surveyor, from the wise one, it needs a degree of emotional maturity to actually make yourself vulnerable to someone else of any age, but particularly young maybe. But then how do we overcome that? Those are things we can acknowledge, difficulties we can acknowledge, but how do we overcome it? And I think it's through relationship. How do you overcome any difficulties when you're dealing with different cultures, different people you don't know? You build relationship. You show your true self to that person, and you hope that they show their true selves back, and that shows that you are willing to be vulnerable, and then to also hold the other person's vulnerability and confidence. And I think that confidence thing is maybe something we haven't spoken about yet, but whatever is shared within the mentoring space, stays within the mentoring space. You don't go back to the office and say, gosh, Roshni just told me, her dog died last week and she's really upset. No, that's her news to say. If she wants to share that, it's her news to share. It's not my
Jenny,
news to
my
share.
dogs are not going to die.
I'm also a dog lover, by the way. So, if someone shares something with you that's part of their vulnerable space, and you don't share, or even if it's not, you don't know what is private to them and what isn't. So you just don't share anything that they've spoken to you about. And that then allows that relationship of trust to build. And it takes time with that person. And I think it's important to state it up front and right in the first meeting. This is a safe space. Here we're talking about the personal issues. Vulnerabilities are most likely to come up on both sides, because when a wise person or older person is sharing their personal experience, they don't share that with the wider world. It's not out there on the internet. It's a personal thing they're sharing with you. Sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned the dogs. I see all the chat is going wild about dogs. Sorry. I'm also a dog lover, I must just add. So yeah, yeah, that thing about being vulnerable. I mean, you're only vulnerable with people you trust. So you have to build a relationship of trust. And the way you do that is by being trustworthy yourself and stating it upfront at the outset. This is a relationship of trust. This is a relationship of privilege. Everything we say within this mentoring session is privileged information. We don't share it. There's no gossip. We have to have our professional hats on there with being very careful with other people's private information. I don't know if that helps a lot, but the intergenerationality is an issue. But an older person who wants to be a mentor, and we had lots of people applying, there are lots of people that really want to be a mentor. They're not going to be holding back. They're going to be wanting to do this because their heart is in it. They want to give back. They want to build relationship. And I think one goes into it with that knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you. It's well appreciated. I think we've now exhausted all the questions that we have. And Roshni, don't worry, your dogs are very safe. Well, I think the last question is saying if we can have a future workshop on the importance of pre-mentorship for youngsters as well. The committee will look into some of these suggestions. The first step is, I feel that it is good that people tend to understand what mentoring is all about before we even say you want to create a platform for mentorship. So you don't jump into something and you're looking confused. So, which is the reason why we've planned for this event. And I want to believe we've been able to do justice, and people now have a clear understanding of what mentorship is all about. I just want to take a final words from all the speakers before we close the event. So who wants to go first? Let's just have a final words from you guys, then we'll close the event. Okay. Jenny,
well, I want to thank Jenny and Roshni and Shirley for making out time to come here. I want to thank the young surveyors that have taken out time to listen. You're all blessed. I hope you're going to take the information you got here today and take it to heart. Don't rush out there and try and shop for all the mentors that are available just immediately. Prepare yourself for this. But at one point in your career, you're going to need a mentor. And I hope it's soon because it will really help you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Rush. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you very much. So, Jenny.
Thank you. Yes. I was about to give a confession, you see, in the true spirit of everything. But and then I realized my confession wasn't quite true. I was about to say that I have never been mentored and I've never been a mentee. And yet I was very much involved in the pilot program. Which is almost true. I had a mentor at work, but I don't even remember who it was. I don't, in fact, I think I joined my current work when mentorship wasn't a thing, and my previous job as well. So I don't think I was mentored. I had a mentor once and it didn't work out. They gave me another one that didn't work out either. So those relationships didn't work. They were both within the university academic structure. They were academic mentors. So it was a totally different thing. So here's my closing statement. I'm vulnerable. I have not been mentored and I have not been a mentee. So I've also learned, we're all learning. We're all learning a lot about lots of things in life. And this has been a wonderful journey of learning. Thanks to Roshni for teaching us so much. And for everybody who finds a good mentor-mentee relationship, it will be something you will never forget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roshni.
One thing I will say is you don't need just one mentor. I have many mentors who are older than me, who are younger than me. I reach out to them. Some of them I reach out to very much for a small period of time, and then I may not speak to them as often for months or years. Sometimes I reach to some mentors for specific skills. And I always find that it's like a friendship, but with a specific focus on sharing with each other and building each other up. And often you do become friends. So I thoroughly recommend all of you to... Jenny, yes, can I be your mentor? I'll be your mentor, Jenny. But I think that there's something so rewarding that comes with being a mentor or having being a mentee. And it just can help you find perspective. It can give you inspiration. And sometimes it just makes you smile and appreciate how far you've come. So I absolutely encourage all of you to think about how your life could be richer in terms of either giving or receiving mentoring. And remember that sometimes the most rewarding thing is giving back, because you gain so much more than you ever would have dreamed possible. It's okay to stuff it up. It's okay to change your mind, but keep going. And if it doesn't work once, try again. And to say what Olumide will no doubt continue saying a lot, take charge. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Roshni. Thank you, everyone. And my final note here is to say mentorship is a continuum, and even with, no matter what your age is, you keep having, because to come to a time where your children will be the one to put you through some things that you need to do. So it's not something that will stop. It's something that would have to keep on happening until death comes. Please, let's keep on learning. I have a lot of mentors. All the facilitators there, I've been privileged to work with them one way or the other. And some of them I can't run away from, like Olumide, like Shirley. I don't have a choice. I have to be clinched with her. Then Roshni. My deployment will not go if Roshni is not supervising well and she doesn't give approvals. So I keep learning. We keep having mentors. Please get a mentor for yourself. A mentor you have also as a friend and not a boss, somebody you can always talk to. On this, I want to say, Roshni, please have a wonderful night rest. Jenny, please have a great day. Olumide, also have a good day. And to everyone who have joined this call, this video the recordings will be made available and it will be posted on the YouTube channel. Please, you can always have it. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and please don't forget, take your time, get a mentor, keep learning, keep growing. You will succeed. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the privilege.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night from Australia.
Good night.
Yeah, bye.
Cheers. See you guys.
Yeah, bye, sir.
Yeah, take care.
Bye, Chucks.
All right. You guys.
Thanks all.